Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to On the Mic with Mike, the premier business radio program in the area. I'm your host, Mike King. I appreciate you being here with me. The views expressed here are mine. I have no connection to, support of, agreement with any other host, information, or ads. I don't work for the station. My program just airs here on a daily basis. Join me as this cutting edge show. We uplift the community and showcase RVA in a different way. We'd like to thank show sponsors Tom Children, Credit Card Guy, Andy Taylor, and Junk Luggers, Mama Shell's Cafe, as well as a number of others, including Rob White and Fast Signs. It is an honor to reach back. Lady we're talking to now comes back, I guess a couple of years ago, always has her hand in the startup world. She's over at the University of Richmond right now. Missy Lattimore, otherwise known as, there you go. How does everybody know you?
Well, in the startup scene, a lot of folks know me as Samaya, but a lot of folks that I've known beyond that know me as Missy. So it's a bit of a mix.
It is a bit of a mix. So, and how do you say your name again? And how often do people get it wrong?
Oh my goodness. So you pronounce it Samaya, and how often do they get it wrong? Mike, if I knew that number, we'd be living on an island somewhere. Okay. It's often.
I bet it's all variations of it.
It is. It really is.
Alrighty. So you got some really cool things going. Really gives our listeners, since we are a business show, give people a path. I know you from the tech world. I'll give a person, our listeners, an idea of you in the tech world and where you are now. You've gone to academia.
I have gone to academia, yes. So my path has, started quite some time ago. I had a design company years ago in Charlotte, North Carolina, and after that, I transitioned into a mix of building out video games, an apparel company, an oyster company, a consumer products company that sold into Whole Foods, another company that was I now have royalties, lifetime royalties for NCAA licensed product. I've done a whole lot. And I'm about to get into an NFT project, I think. I don't know how to say no, I think is my problem.
Were you always the girl who was had her eye on the tech space, the new and exciting thing?
I think I was always the girl that was really curious and didn't take no for an answer and loved solving problems. And then sort of fell into the tech space. Actually, when a good friend of mine, my background is in design, and a good friend of mine was putting together a hackathon, and I was like, well, I don't belong there. I don't code. And he said, no, you're a designer. We need you. And you're a problem solver. And that was really what got me into it. I had a friend that was in computer science and let me know that I was welcome. That's how I got in, really.
Gotcha. So you always have your finger on the pulse of what's happening out there in the streets. Okay, let's talk about this new exciting event that you have coming up. That way our listeners know what time it is.
So we've got an event at 5 p.m. at the University of Richmond at the Quilly Admissions Center. It'll be from about 5 to about 8:15. The reception will probably end. We'll have pitches that will kick off around 5:45. We'll have 4 pitches for 4 different food categories. And then after those folks pitch, we'll have the panel of judges that are going to be selecting one product that these young founders are going to commercialize in the spring semester.
So let's talk about, there's the startup world. Everyone's out there pitching everything. And this is a competition. It's the, I guess, the forefront of technology and food. Is that what exactly it is?
That's the way I would like to look at it. So what's interesting about this experience is typically in higher ed, students come with an existing idea. And that can be a barrier if someone wants to gain the experience of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. So we have a food expert with us, Shane Emmett, that of course sold Health Warrior to PepsiCo, who is one of the instructors, and then Joel Meyer, who is a marketing professor here at Richmond, that are partnered together. They've brought in a food scientist. They've worked with all of the food experts and chefs in the dining services team at the University of Richmond, and they're exploring 4 different food categories. So we have a team that's focused on alternative protein, that is more of a bean snack. We have a gluten-free cracker that is, it doesn't have any of the top allergens in it, which is a really challenging product to find. We have a condiment or sauce, and then we have an artisanal bread. So they all have areas of distinction, and I would say very much rooted in thinking about this from a scientific perspective, not just a brand perspective.
So explain to our listeners the difference between the entrepreneurial world and academia as to what's happening out on the street, so Broad Street or anywhere else in town or anywhere else that you come to think of. Is there a big difference?
I think that there is a difference in the sense that in higher ed, your customer base is always, you've got a 4-year churn, or a 2-year churn, right?
Okay.
And so the expectation of the consumer, if you will, or the student changes, their interests change, and the communication channels is changing left and right. Their, I don't want to say attention span, I think more the time, what they value spending time, can also change. And so you think about, and I wouldn't even say it's a 2 or 4 year churn. It could be from year to year that you're noticing new trends and ways to interact, or what grabs someone's attention, or what's a workshop or a topic or curriculum that is going to interest folks. And so I think that is a significant difference from traditional, business.
We always talk in this show about what are the streets saying, as from a business perspective, as we emerge from the whole COVID experience.
Mhm.
Is it different in higher ed and what people are living that experience there, as opposed to what business owners and entrepreneurs and founders and everyone are finding out in these streets out here?
I think it's a little different from, I can say, from one perspective. So when things reopened, we were, majority of folks were very excited to get back out and attend, whether it's restaurants or be able to go to church again, or, to go to the store, shop. I am seeing that, you have an entire, in this case, we have sophomores who their entire first year experience was during COVID. And so
Yeah.
everything was closed. Everyone's wearing masks. You may have students that live really far from home, and so they're disconnected in a very different way. And so when you think about, events or doing things in person, there is still that preference for Zoom or for not to attend at all, because I think there's COVID fatigue. And so I think that's a big distinction between what others may experience on the business side, in the sense of folks just dying to get out and go attend things. I'm not quite seeing that as much from, in the higher ed space, that, students are attending, but not to what we saw before COVID.
It is something that they thought as soon as people were going to come back like gangbusters, but people are still out there concerned.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about like female entrepreneurs. Is the world different than you were the person who was out there, and how often did you see other women? And now, what's it look like to you because you got your finger all over it?
Okay, so I think it's extremely different. I think thankfully it's trending in the direction of, that women are accepted not only in the startup scene, but in a leadership role, in the first few hires, or co-founding partners. I would say even in the startup scene, we have a lot of female leadership. You've got Chandra that is with Activation Capital. You've got Erin running Lighthouse Labs. I now at University of Richmond, this is an initiative, so we've not quite gotten to a place of being a center or an institute, but there are only two other women in the state that are leading centers or initiatives, across more than 30 plus universities. And so that's incredible to see that, I'm, as a woman, that I'm leading, a major initiative, and mostly those are filled by men. And so that is starting, while it's small percentage.
It's a start.
It's a start. My family is Lebanese, and so it's nice to have the recognition. The University of Richmond has I think the thought leadership to hire women, and also that as a minority. And so I appreciate that very much. I think that also sends an incredible signal to our students, for them to feel welcome and for the ecosystem to see that step forward. And so that's also exciting.
What is the initiative of the initiative? Like, where does that come from? Like that idea, and explain to our listeners exactly what it is.
So this is the Creativity, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship Initiative at the University of Richmond. I would say that across all of the schools, arts and sciences, the Jepson School of Leadership and the Robbins School of Business, the students are really hungry to explore, whether it is exploring, how do you think creatively? How is your creativity valued in the business world? What does it mean to be in innovation or corporate innovation? And what does it mean to start your own thing through entrepreneurship? They want to change the world, these students, and they're looking for us to show them how to use their education to do so effectively and have the greatest impact. I would say the University of Richmond is poised to deliver a really impactful 21st century education in creativity, innovation, entrepreneurship. At the core, they are a very research intensive school that rivals, I would say, major research universities, which was, that's a learning curve for me. I've never been at a smaller school. I've only been at major research universities. They've got world-class programs in arts, sciences, business, social sciences, humanities, leadership, and distinctive graduate programs in law and business. So in developing CIE at Richmond, we've taken a modular developmental approach with multiple on-ramps that will allow students to develop their creative muscles, test out their innovative ideas in a supportive, highly mentored, real-world setting. And as they progress from ideation to acceleration, we will be able to provide them increasing levels of support through coursework, experiential programming, funding opportunities, relationships in the community, pitch competitions, community outreach, things of that nature.
So let's give our listeners more information on the pitch competition. What could they expect? And then let's go on to what is a real win for the winner? Like what would be the ultimate goal to say, wow, this happened to me because I won the pitch competition, or I was in the pitch competition, I didn't win, but I got noticed. Like, what's the end goal?
So the 4 teams, so there's 16 students. We had to cap we have a wait list. So that was exciting in the first year. We have 16 students that are in 4 teams exploring 4 different food products. And so they're going to be pitching those, and there will be one selected. So the one team that is selected, that product will be commercialized in partnership with Hatch Kitchen RBA, which was founded by a spider, an alum, Brad Cummings. And so you'll see that product on the shelves in the grocery store.
Okay.
Starting hopefully with the Whole Foods, we're establishing a partnership with them, or like, your other local specialty shops around Richmond. So the university will be, granting that seed funding for them to be able to commercialize that product. So those 4 teams will then merge into one team of 16, and you'll have pockets of specialties. So you'll have a finance team, you'll have a marketing team, you'll have folks that are focused on selling, folks that are working on the commercialization. And so then there'll be a singular, group of employees. So no longer 4 different ideas, they're gonna merge and rally behind that one to go through that commercialization process and scaling.
Wow. So they've gone to competing to collaborating.
Oh, yes. I love that. I'm stealing that line.
Well, thank you. I get one good one every show. No, not really. Okay, so here you talked to a lot of people. Explain to the listeners why the entrepreneurial startup scene is so hot in Richmond, and it's been for a while. Like a lot of towns. So I came here from State College, Pennsylvania. Shout out to Happy Valley and all the Penn Staters out there. Living in a college, going to college is fun. Living in a college town is funner. Yes, it is. 2 blocks from campus is where we live. So, we understand young people believe the world could be a better place. And that's what this radio program is. But we talk about brain drains in cities, and Richmond clearly does not have that. Richmond is attracting young people, entrepreneurs, the best and brightest all the time. Talk about the what's happening out there that is the reason that this town is so fertile for that.
I think that, Richmond is naturally a maker city. You know, we believe in product and tangible goods. We have an incredible creative scene. We have incredible proximity, you know, to the DC and Triangle area, Virginia Beach. And so we were poised geographically as a place where founders, I think for a recruitment perspective, or, you know, folks that transplant to Richmond, you know, you have access to those bigger things, but you really do have a small community. I think from a startup community perspective, you know, I when I was with Lighthouse Labs, spent 2 years working all across Virginia, and, you know, analyzed this. And Richmond, you know, has made the decision to be a startup town. And they're making the decision to be the Richmond version of that startup town, not to be a Silicon Valley, you know, not to be a Chicago or New York, but to say we are Richmond, Virginia, and this is what we are known for, and let's move together as a community to build that. And I think the leaders from, you know, the entrepreneurial support organizations across the community are also, you know, working together in concert to think about how they recruit and attract and support founders intentionally. And you're seeing things, you know, from the community foundation, you know, to activation capital, to thinking about Main Street business, you know, so that really no founder is unserved. And, you know, that I think that selfless perspective and economies of abundance, if we all work together, the impact that we can have is what makes us unique and what is going to allow us to continue to grow and thrive as an ecosystem.
Alrighty, so you had mentioned Lighthouse, Activation Capital. What are some of the other organizations out there who kind of have their hand in that world? I know Lantera Labs is always really doing some really cool things out there. Who are some of the others?
Oh, well, Startup Virginia, you know, our buddy
we
Rick,
got?
he's a dream. Yeah, you've got, of course, Activation Capital, Lighthouse Labs, Startup Virginia, you know, VCU Da Vinci Center, you know,
Oh
from
yeah,
another
they're really doing some really cool things out there,
yeah, the new
out in
Shift
Ashland.
Lab, yeah. And you know, then you also, I think, have other organizations that people might not be aware of, you know, with your co-working spaces like Gather, you know, and their explosion and growth. You know, you've got for groups like the Spark Mill that are partnering with the Thrive for the Collaboratory of Virginia, thinking about the nonprofit space. And you've got CIT that now has a presence, or what are they now? VIPC is the new brand for CIT. So they have a presence in Richmond now, which is incredible. And they're going to be unlocking dollars to expand and support our startup ecosystem. There's a whole lot more than I think folks realize. And you know, even the behind the scenes conversations of, again, how do we support all founders at any stage of their journey? What do we have? What are the gaps? That constant analysis. I mean, our ecosystem, if anything, is analyzed on a regular basis to make sure that we are staying at the forefront of the needs of our founders.
Well, it's always a pleasure. How can people find you out there, the event? And then what's going to happen is when you guys, when we've gone through the process, anytime that you have anyone who you want to come on, there's always a place for you. As I always say, we bring the best and the brightest on, and you clearly are out there among those folks. So how can we find you and your organization?
So folks can find us at cie.richmond.edu. And I'm available. They'll find me online. They'll find any other events we have online that are open to the public. And we're excited to see everyone and taste some good food, have some fellowship, and see the winning product.
There we go. Okay, for all the founders who are out there, all the entrepreneurs, one nugget of knowledge, what word of wisdom would you give them when they're in the dark days, when it seems like the bottom has come out? What should they do?
I will give them what my first mentor gave me, which is, if it was easy, everyone would do it. Persevere. Persevere.
That is true. The line would be long. There wouldn't even be a line. It would just be like everybody would be out there doing it. That's for sure. All righty. It's a pleasure. Glad to connect with you. What we're going to do is stay in touch, and I will see you at the event.
Awesome.
And you know what? We're going to make magic happen. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks. And we'll catch up soon. Thanks. Now take care.
All right.
Bye-bye.